Vietnam has been called the first helicopter war. Thousands of choppers brought new mobility to the battlefield, engaging in transport, rescue, and assault.
And when we got to Vietnam, we found that because of the fact that we had these various enclaves and we had terrible roads and we had a mine problem and everything else, that it was really the only way to travel. Without the helicopter, I'm not sure how we would have fought that war. The front lines were almost everywhere. And there was no secure area even in the major cities.
The idea of aerial envelopment has been with us almost since the airplane. General Mitchell, for example, in the First World War advocated landing airplanes behind the enemy lines and establishing machine gun nests so that you could have a strong point that the Germans couldn't attack, and that was in 1918. True vertical envelopment came about when you could transport troops by helicopter and place them on a specific spot with all their equipment concentrated. Helicopters were used like that in Korea, and then they were used like that extensively in Vietnam.
Vietnam's helicopter workhorse was the UH-1 Huey. Advanced models carried up to 14 troops or 6 stretchers, and thousands were in constant service throughout the war. Although extremely vulnerable to small arms fire, Hueys were also remarkably resilient.
Shot down is a relative thing. In a fixed wing, getting shot down is always catastrophic for the aircraft. In the case of a helicopter, not necessarily. I was forced to land. I never crashed in a ball of fire like some have, but I was forced down due to enemy fire on 7 different occasions. On 6 of those, I was able subsequently to salvage the airplane, replace an engine, rotor blade, whatever it might be.
The Huey became the first helicopter to carry extensive armaments.
We put almost every kind of gun you could think of on various helicopters. First door mounts on the Hueys. Later on we had chin mounts that could be controlled by the pilot to give the pilot some protection up front, coupled with the swivel guns in the door to give you some
power. Came from dozens of wing-loaded rockets.
The name Cobra comes from the call sign of the unit which first used armed Huey helicopters as weapons, as distinct from transports.
So feared were the Cobras, the enemy had to be goaded into challenging them.
You try to get them to shoot at you to expose their position. Would fly in the pairs. One of you would get down on the close to the trench lines, buzz the trench lines, and try to draw fire, and the other one would be up here in a position where they could go and make a rocket run or a machine gun run right behind you. Once you drew fire, you kick your red smoke out and they'd go in and hit it. Have to expose ourselves and our crew to a lot of...
I had 195 mile an hour top speed, very, very effective helicopter for the task.
The Jolly Greens were
pilot long enough for the helicopter to go in and get him out.
We have your parachute in sight. We have you in sight. The helicopter is close by.
The problem with rescue is everybody knows where you have to go, and everybody knows what you have to do. You have to come to a complete stop and just sit there while they get the guy and bring him into the aircraft, or at least attach him to the rescue device.